Okay, we're trying something new here at Blue Glow Electronics today. It's a new series called Gear Spotlight, and the intent is for them to be 10-minute or less videos kind of highlighting a piece of hi-fi equipment. Could be a turntable, could be a receiver, could be an amplifier or a preamp, a cartridge, who knows. But the thought is I could make short little videos about pieces of gear that I either own or that came in the shop. And this could help fill in some additional content and put more videos out from us here at Blue Glow Electronics. So hold tight. We're going to start our journey here in 1959. Okay, the 1959 October edition of High Fidelity. Great magazine, by the way, and you can find these online. But page 19 here shows us something from a company called Nobles, a major engineering achievement. And they're talking about a transistorized for stereo quality that speaks for itself. So 1959 and transistors, pretty early stuff to be honest. But neat little mid-century modern look here set up. And then they show a picture of it here on the inside. Looks like it's got a turntable, a reel-to-reel unit, a preamp, and then a tuner, and as well as an amplifier down here in the corner. And it's from a company in St. Paul, Minnesota called Nobles Engineering and Manufacturing. And there is very little info out here on the internet about this company. Matter of fact, very little info about these amplifiers, the one I'm going to show you today. I found them in a few other magazines. Looks like they made some boat parts and just had their hands in a little bit of different things from a engineering and manufacturing standpoint. Then they kind of scroll down and they show you this transistorized stereo preamp and tone control unit. And then they show you this transistorized AM/FM multiplex tuner. Then they show you a stereophonic amplifier, 30 watts, dual 15-watt amplifier called the Nobles NS-170, which is a beautiful, beautiful little amplifier. And that's kind of all the info that's out there is this one magazine article. A little bit tidbits here and there in some of the Audio Karma and other forums, but just not a lot of info. Okay, I want to show you a little bit about this Nobles NS-170. Neat little amplifier. Looks like it's got some volume controls, left and right channel input. It's got some kind of little auxiliary connection here. I think maybe would connect to the preamplifier unit. It's got the power plug here, and it's got a nice little GZ34 output. And then it's got these, it's very interesting, two plug-in modules here, and inside of each one of those are two EL34 output tubes. And as you can see here, you can see the little spaces where the plug-in modules go. Super clean, neat little amplifier. And then you can actually see what's inside those little plug-in modules here. I thought pretty interesting using printed circuit boards with some vias to the other side, so it looks like a dual-sided board. Pretty interesting stuff here for this vintage of time. And then you can see the little bottoms of the plug-in modules. I just thought it's a really unique design, especially 1959. They doing some pretty neat stuff here. So I had been lusting after one of those NS-130s for a long time. Still have not found one to buy. When I do, I will hopefully buy it. And actually a friend of mine on Facebook, she has one of them. Really neat little units. But I happened to come across this unit one day, and it is actually the Nobles NS-170, which I cannot find any articles anywhere or any information on, other than through the individual that I got this from. But if you'll notice, it doesn't use the little plug-in modules. It actually has 8 EL34s in this thing. And then it has 4 driver tubes here. It has 2 GZ34s for the power supply and 2 filter caps here on it. And I believe my unit has been modified some. It's missing the little input jack here, as well as it looks like maybe somebody has removed the volume controls off of mine. But as rare as it was, I decided to go ahead and pick it up anyway. So I don't know where the guy I got this from got his info, but he certainly has more info on it than anyone I've been able to dig up. This was a cut and paste of the eBay auction that I got this thing off a while back. And it says, here is the fabulous Nobles NS-170 stereo amplifier now offered for sale. It says Nobles was manufactured in Minneapolis, Minnesota by Nobles Engineering and Manufacturing Company in the early 70s and is a rare find. This is serial number 1015. This brand was not offered to the public and was made for Otis, the elevator company. Also sold for Muzak systems in commercial settings. They're extremely rare and known to be bulletproof amp. I've included with this purchase an additional set of Russian 6N14 ends EB output tubes in the original boxes. He purchased this in the early 90s from a friend in Seattle. He had acquired it from a local Linwood repair shop and who had decided to renovate the amplifier with some higher quality metal films. It's basically saying it uses these 8 EL34 tubes producing 70 watts in a classic push-pull parallel configuration. Talks about how much he fell in love with this thing and how it runs circles around many of the Dyna, Ico, Scott, or other vintage amps out there. He talked about the condition. It's got 2 RCA GZ34s, which are actually both Mullards. And then he goes on to talk about the tubes and the extra tubes he sent with it. And so I've had this thing a little while now, and much like this guy, I have absolutely fallen in love with it. If you came along into my shop, which I probably have, 50 to 100 amplifiers, I'd have a hard time even counting them. But if you said you had to pick one amplifier to keep, I honestly think this might be the one. So let's get over on the bench and check this thing out. I have fallen in love with this amplifier. Okay, here it is on the bench in all of its beauty. Beautiful chrome chassis on this thing. You can see a few little nicks and paint scrapes here on the top of the transformers on this thing. So it's not perfect. Cosmetically, I'd give it a good 7 or 8 out of 10. But it's just an amazing looking amplifier. You've got all 8 of these tubes sitting here, and but the driver and the phase splitters here. So you've got 12 tubes total running in this amplifier. You can see the 2 nice hefty filter caps in this thing, which by the way still are functioning fine. I even checked the ESR on all of it. You got your 2 nice made in Great Britain here GZ34s on this thing, and you can see here I've mounted on some little banana plug-in jacks here that I use a lot on these terminal strip style speaker jacks, and you can see where the 2 inputs go here, and you can see where I think someone has removed the volume controls and this little input jack. But the thing is just rock solid and beautiful. Somebody put these little IARC heat shields on these things. These things are beautiful as well, and getting kind of harder to find these days. But it's running just a set of Electro-Harmonix 12AX7s through on all 4 of these here on the front end. Just an amazing looking little amp. And the reason I've got it on the bench today is he's got, underneath of it's got 4 orange drop coupling capacitors. And I think I'm going to put some new Teflon coupling capacitors inside this thing. These are some old Russian military surplus, and they're really big. As you can see, they're bigger than an EL84, but there's a lot of room underneath this thing too, so I'm going to go down that path. But that's not what today's about. Today's just a gear spotlight to kind of show you this thing. I thought I'd put it on the bench here and see how it tests out. Okay, you can see somebody's used some high quality components in this thing. You can see the original wiring layout, how nice and clean it was done. You've got 4 orange drops here. Those were what I'm looking to replace with the Teflon caps. And then somebody's put some nice Solines in here. So, and a couple chokes down here as well. Really nice layout though on the inside. Very well made amplifier. Yeah, we're running this thing on the bench now, performing a few tests, and beautiful sine wave, 0.4% distortion at a pretty low drive. If I drive it a little harder, the distortion figures actually get better, 0.07% distortion, and things looking really good. So let's run a little bit of frequency response on it here in just a minute. All right, random frequency response on this thing. I thought it was kind of interesting. This thing dipped right at 110 hertz by about 1 dB down, which is not enough to be noticeable. And it's slightly up here at the 1.1 kilohertz, and then just slightly down here at the 20 kilohertz. But all in all, pretty decent frequency response. Not quite as flat as I'd like to see it along here, but maybe I can play around with some of these coupling cap scenarios and flatten that out a little bit.
You let me burn out, though no fire was here. You let me move around in my worst of days.
Alright, hope you learned a little bit about the Noble's NS-170 and the Noble's company in general. Very rare, unique amplifier. I love it. Hey, stay tuned. I've got about a 4-minute song if you're interested in it. It's a local Winston-Salem band, one of my favorite songs. If not, consider this thing a wrap. Thanks, everybody. Alright, friend of mine's band, a couple guys from Winston-Salem. Thought I'd play this and let you hear how this amplifier sounds.
Can't count the bodies anymore. The blood and whiskey dance like lovers on the barroom floor. These eyes are sore, these boots are worn. They cannot tell the story anymore. The roads I've traveled far and wide, they speak to me just like the tears of a widowed bride. These guns are lies, the hate has died, it never filled the emptiness inside. For all the wicked things I've done, I'm hanging up my guns. I can't defend what I've become. I'm hanging up my guns. I've only known life on the run. I'm hanging up my gun. And all this guilt, it weighs a ton. I'm hanging up my guns. I felt the fear of death within. I've held the fragile face of life up against my skin. If I could begin again, I'd separate myself from that of my dark twin. I've I've ended lives, I've shattered hopes. My halo waits for me in the form of a hangman's rope. And when I choke, I pray I find the peace that's abandoned my soul. For all the wicked things I've done, I'm hanging up my guns. I can't defend what I've become. I'm hanging up my guns. This wretched mouth, this bitter tongue, I'm hanging up my guns. My impotent heart, my blackened lungs, I'm hanging up my guns. And as the crowd starts to gather to see light leave my eyes, they seek judgment and closure for the tears they've cried. And I only wanted the same. And I can see for the first time in my short life the virtue of vengeance, but also the vice and this needless hate that's consumed my soul. And as the trap it is readied and the rope it is lowered, I look to the sky as my pulse runs colder and wonder with death, will this guilt be relieved? At the corner of my eye, I see a girl in a dress. She's radiant and beautiful, wants nothing less than the final bell, the final bell to toll. But will somebody here please say a prayer for my soul? And if there's one person here who could say a prayer for my soul.